You've caught yourself catastrophizing, you've stopped, you've paused, you've visualized better, more realistic outcomes, and then you go right back to the negative thinking. What do? My name's Steve and I coach professional people just like you to succeed from a peaceful mind. And a good place to start is with my free, simple 5-step guide to mastering stress in the moment. Today I'm responding to a viewer question. What if you apply everything in this video up here, but you still keep going back to assuming the worst? Well look, I've got 2 things I would love to explore with you about that. In this video I'm going to explore something which involves applying our rationality, and in the next video I'll deal with something that's more to do with quality of mind and presence of being. So be sure to subscribe and click the notifications bell so that you'll get notified when that video appears. This is me. I spent years being a catastrophizer. I did it like a champion. I conquered my worst tendencies for catastrophizing through a combination of rational thinking and presence of mind. Now, one thing that's worth acknowledging right at the start is we're dealing with thinking habits here, habits which may have spent years forming. They can take some time to change. And while habit change can happen quickly, if you're new to these practices, it may simply be a case of sticking with it and persevering. Practicing, if you like, because practice is what makes perfect. Sometimes though, it's not just habit that's making it come back. Sometimes it's that there's a message from your unconscious mind which you haven't acknowledged, that you haven't dealt with. And that message may simply be, I'm afraid that this might happen. And sometimes it's useful to sit down with our fears, metaphorically speaking, like you might sit with a frightened child, to love it, to hear it, to let it know that you hear it, and in the space of loving kindness, to be the rational counsellor. Now, let's be clear, terrible things do happen. It's just that it's not useful to live life in constant fear of the worst things that could happen, especially when the probabilities of those things are low. Our attention is better spent on what is more likely. But to get there, sometimes it's worth making an inventory of our fears and look at them the same way we would look at risks at work. Yeah, you heard me, like risks at work. Like they're not personal risks, but impersonal risks. Like they're risks of a project that you're working on. So like a dispassionate professional project manager, number 1, identify the risk. Number 2, describe the risk. Number 3, describe the impact of that risk if it happened. Being careful to think what will actually happen, not what is the worst fear story that you can create. And number 4, assess the probability of that risk. You know there's a risk you could win the lottery, but I'll bet you don't live your life as if that's about to happen. Now, many of the things that we catastrophize are genuinely high impact, but very low probability. But we exaggerate the impact by making up even worse stories than is actually likely. That's where it's useful to catch your breath, catch your state of mind, and from a sober point of view, actually ask the question, what will really happen? Not, how can I extrapolate this out to be absolute catastrophe? For instance, if the risk is that you could lose your job, what will actually happen is you'll work your contacts, you'll work the job adverts, you'll work your butt off to get a new job. Not that you will just simply wither away and die. Then there are 2 more questions. Number 1, is there something that could be done to mitigate this risk? And number 2, if there is it worth doing? By the way, if you're liking this video so far, do give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the notifications bell. Now from that inquiry is going to come a decision. Either I am going to do this action to mitigate this risk. So for instance, if the risk is you could lose your job, you might want to take proactive action to get your knowledge up to date, maybe take some training, maybe take some new certification. Or you might make the decision, I'm not going to do anything about this risk because there's nothing I can realistically do about it. Or I'm not going to do anything about this risk because the probability is simply too low. In the same way that you're probably not going to spend much time preparing for winning the lottery. I mean, if that happens, that's one of those things, you'll deal with it when it happens. Or what could even happen is you decide, I'm not going to do anything about this risk because when I write it down and explore it rationally, it frankly is an irrational fear. I mean, that happens too, and it happens quite a lot. But the most important thing though is to hold the enquiry, be attentive to the enquiry, do it from a rational, sober mind, to acknowledge the fears, acknowledge the risk, to acknowledge the unconscious part of you which raises the risk. But most of all, to make the decision and make the decision to be done with the decision. Write it down if you have to, and then do the being work which will support this. Now for more, I recommend you watch this video next. And other than that, this is Steve wishing you health and happiness.